going to see extraordinary and in many ways surprising encounters with young people who've been won over to the side of ISIS. Their bloody goals, their nihilistic worldview, and the one mom who tried to warn police about what was happening with her son. Here's Nightline contributor Mariana Van Zeller with our series, Face to Face.
Do you think you'll be going back to ISIS?
My dream is still to live underneath the Islamic Caliphate.
Born in Belgium, raised in the Catholic Church, this former altar boy may not fit the typical profile of an ISIS recruit.
You think sooner or later they'll make it to Europe?
I think they're already in Europe. Because ISIS is not a group, it's an ideology.
This radical ideology compelling thousands of Europeans and Americans to join ISIS and inspire the homegrown terrorists in Paris, San Bernardino, and Brussels.
The Quran says, cut the heads off of the non-Muslims.
The attacks now fueling an already smoldering fire of far-right nationalist movements.
No.
Creating what some are calling a perfect breeding ground for recruitment.
Hate feeds off hate. It's a vicious cycle.
So I traveled to Europe to find out what ISIS recruitment actually looks like, to pinpoint the moment a homegrown terrorist is created. This is how I found myself in Belgium, just a month before last week's tragedy, and face to face with a man who could be in jail if he lived in the United States for providing material support to a terror group. Michael Youness Delefortrie was part of an early wave of Europeans traveling to Syria to join ISIS. Last year, he was convicted on terror charges in Belgium. He only received 3 years probation.
What are they, Islamic State fighters?
Yeah, they're my brothers in Islam.
Why do you think then that people like yourself are joining ISIS?
We have people, not only people who are uneducated, we have doctors, we have nurses. Those people also leave. And because of what? Because they believe there's something better than this society.
Before he traveled to Syria to join ISIS, Delefortrie fell in with a group of like-minded fundamentalists called Sharia for Belgium. The organization rejects democracy and calls for the country to adopt the Islamic system of rules and laws known as Sharia.
Sharia is something every Muslim has to believe in.
So does that include the stonings for adultery, the lashings for consumption of alcohol?
The complete Sharia.
The death of homosexuals?
Yes, the complete Sharia.
And you believe in all of this?
I believe in all of that.
After the start of the civil war in Syria, Sharia for Belgium became a primary recruiter of foreign fighters. Delefortrie set off for Syria in December 2013.
How many people do you know from your group of friends who've left to join ISIS?
60.
60?
Yeah.
What happened to those 60 people?
I don't know. A lot of them went to paradise.
You mean a lot of them died?
Like the majority, yeah.
In Molenbeek, what's being called the jihadi capital of Europe, I went to meet the mother of another young man lured by this message.
Why do you think your son went to Syria? Why do you think he joined ISIS?
Because he was thinking that he has no place here.
Geraldine says that growing up, her son was a fairly typical teenager. But after he graduated, Anis, whose father is Moroccan, was left unemployed. Searching for direction, Anis appeared to become more serious about his faith.
He was praying 5 times a day.
But Anis was being radicalized and recruited to join ISIS.
We did what we can do to stop him.
When Anis announced that he was going to Syria, Geraldine notified the local police. The police, however, never intervened, and Anis made his way to Turkey and the border with Syria.
So they told you they knew your son was joining ISIS, but they decided because he was 18 years old, he was an adult, they were just going to let him go?
Yes, he can do what he wanted, thus we can stop it.
A police officer said
Yes.
Anis was killed in Syria.
I have only a small message from a friend who was there with him. And he said to me, your son is dead during the attack of Der Selzor. You must be proud of him. He was a good guy. Everybody loves him. Be proud of him. And nothing else, nobody, nothing.
Today, Geraldine blames the recruiters who convinced her son that it was his duty as a Muslim to join the Islamic State.
We don't understand how they are able to change the brain of the young to accept to do that.
What authorities didn't count on is that some of those young men would come back. including this man standing next to Anas in a photo from Syria. He's Abdelhamid Abaoud, also from Molenbeek, and the suspected ringleader of the Paris attacks. Sofiane Sekri, a 25-year-old Uber driver, was there that night. His first response was to help shuttle people out of the area of the attacks. But after things settled down and the identity of the attackers became known, Sofiane says he had another reaction.
Comme je dis, on est là.
Tu penses vraiment que tu es...
Ah oui.
All of the known gunmen turned out to be European citizens, and in many ways they share the same profile as Sofiane. Young Muslims who were born in Europe, the sons of immigrants, prime targets for ISIS recruitment. But Sofiane insists that most people here are thinking more about putting food on the table than jihad.
On pense même pas à Daesh, on pense pas à ça. Nous, on a d'autres chats à fouetter, on a d'autres choses à faire.
Still, high unemployment, poverty, and marginalization here make it fertile for radicalization. The messages often spread through slick online videos, but also face-to-face, sometimes starting as simple conversations.
Ils viennent nous voir pour devenir radicalisés. Ils nous expliquent comment devenir
Qui sont-ils?
des gens qui tournent dans Paris, qui viennent nous discuter, qui nous disent voilà, arrête d'être habillé comme ça, arrête d'avoir les cheveux comme ça, c'est pas bien d'avoir des copines.
Combien de fois est-ce que les personnes sont...
3 fois dans ma vie, 3 fois, 4 fois.
So why do you think it works with some people and not with others? Why didn't it work with you?
Parce que ces gens-là sont seuls.
So you're saying it works on some people because if you're more isolated, if you don't really have a job, they're easy prey and they easily become radicalized.
Ils vont dans le côté noir et après ils deviennent des gens méchants.
They feel like they're caught in the middle between the more radical Islam that doesn't like them and disapproves of them and would like to see them dead, and the French who see them as outsiders and who don't feel like they belong in France. It's these kinds of insecurities that extremist groups exploit, something that journalist Hind Frahi has been warning about for years. I met her in Belgium, where a decade ago she tried to alert authorities about the growing threat, after she went undercover in Molenbeek to investigate rumors of radicalization.
I even heard an imam telling in his Friday sermon that people should go and enjoy the jihad. So it wasn't discreet, it was like it was normal.
At the time, Hind's investigation was largely dismissed by authorities.
They just told me that I was too young. I just was manipulated by young people on the street. But the question is now, who got manipulated?
After the Brussels attacks happened, I checked back in with her. You warned about this 10 years ago when you wrote your book. What does this mean?
It makes me feel, Mariana, very sad because I didn't want it to be right. I'm really afraid that people, especially on the right wing, will take these events to give more reason to their racist point of views.
After traveling extensively here, it seems there's little to bridge the divide between Europe's extremes, echoed increasingly here in the US. But they all have one thing in common. The message to Muslims from the far right is essentially the same, used by Islamic extremists.
You have to listen to these young people. We have to give them a voice.
Before they become radicalized, they need to feel like they have a voice and they have a place in society.
Absolutely, yes. I have to say I'm scared. Not for myself, but for my children. In what kind of world are they growing up?
For Nightline, I'm Mariana Van Zeller in Paris.
And you can see Mariana's full report called Radicals Rising on Fusion.net.